This is our second session together, and last session you talked all about where you want to go, where you want to be, and where you currently are and what's holding you back. That's so important when it comes to nutrition. As I reminded you, this isn't about you taking the time of trying to create this perfect meal plan. We'll get to that. But before we get there, we have to ensure that we build a solid foundation and a firm foundation around nutrition. And honestly, before you can make any changes and to make sure that you're making the best decision for yourself, you have to make sure that you've taken some time to evaluate what's going on in here and in here. And that's what we did in the first session. Now we're going to take it a little bit further before we really dive in so I can break it down about protein, carbs, and all that stuff. Answering your questions around what diets are the best and all of that. We want to look a little bit more into your relationship with food. It may sound so simple and almost ridiculous to have this conversation, but as I work with clients and as I work with women all over the world, one of the things that I realize is that the relationship you have with food and the relationship that you have with your body plays a big role in how you use food in your daily life. So what do I mean by that? I'll share a story of a client that I worked with. And I told her I was doing this, so she's all on board and she knows we're gonna talk about it. But I had a client come to me, it was about 6 months ago. And she said, Allison, I'm really, really serious about getting my food on point. I want to lose weight. I really want to do all of this stuff and just get it handled. I was like, okay, great, not a problem, we can do that. So we did the Troll on the Bridge exercise. We did some other exercises as well because I really like to spend the first session together really getting to know the person. Then we got into her relationship with food. And I said to her, we'll call her Elisa. Elisa, think of me as your fairy godmother when it comes to nutrition. If I could wave a magic wand over your current situation, what would it look like? What would that one thing be? And she said, well, I would like to be able to go to a restaurant or go out on a date and feel confident and feel not like a loser or not to feel so anxious when it came to ordering food. And I said, okay, well, talk to me a little bit about that. Where is the anxiety coming from? What's happening? We had this long conversation, and what it turned out was at the age of 6 years old, she was attending Weight Watchers classes with her mother's best friend. She was heavier than her sisters and her mother was freaking out, and so she started sending her to these weight loss classes at the age of 6. She went to her first weight loss summer camp as a 10-year-old, and she went to these camps every single summer for 5 years. By the time she was 16 years old, she'd already had disordered eating, she'd already had a really negative relationship with food, and you guessed it, an even more negative relationship with her body. She was a mess. She was a wreck. Her ability to be able to look at food and understand its true purpose was creating this total situation where she was always anxious, nervous, felt like she didn't have control over food, didn't have control of her body. She gained a lot of weight in the process and just began to feel horrible about herself and started using food as comfort and also punishment and a reward. Her relationship with food was so toxic, and we've all, hopefully, I would love that if we've never experienced toxic relationships. I know I have experienced more than I should probably ever have experienced. But if you've ever been in a toxic relationship, then you understand how anxiety-inducing it can be when you're around that person, when you're not around that person, you're thinking about that person. There's so much going on when you have that toxic relationship. So imagine it with food, something that you need every single day just to live your life and function. And that really created a big challenge for her. She was afraid to eat carbs because she was afraid to gain weight. She was afraid to do all these different things. And then if she did eat carbs or she did eat a piece of cake or go to a birthday party, after that party, she would feel so guilty and so shameful. She would do diets, she would do all these things, and what it really boiled down to was the fact that her relationship with food and her body was running her life. Now, you may not be that far off in your relationship with food and your body, and maybe you're like, I actually feel pretty good about food. But even if you have a small amount of anything that's toxic or anything that's not helpful for you when it comes to food, it makes a big difference. It may feel like a drop in a bucket, but I promise you that over time, we build up beliefs around our ability to get healthy, our ability to lose weight, our ability to make changes, because you've tried and tried and tried, and you may not have gotten the best results. Or life happens and then you can't sustain it. And my goal is to get you to a place where you are able to look at food for what exactly it is and allow it to help you through your process. So what do I mean by that? Well, first, let's talk about what food is. Food is fuel. If you can remember that, if you can simply remember that food is fuel, then you're already in a great place to start. Because so many times we forget that food has actual purpose of keeping you alive. Every time that you put food into your body, it's either moving you forward and helping you to heal yourself or to create more vitality or energy in your body, or it's taking you further away from that. It's creating disease, discomfort, irritation, inflammation in your body. And remember, we're eating food on a daily basis, so every single thing that we eat, every meal is an opportunity to move you forward or pull you further away. Now, that's a lot of pressure when it comes to food, but if you understand what food is at its core, then you can start to strip away some of those emotional ties that you have to food. Because that's really where we need to start to reshift our thinking and redefine nutrition. And if you think about food as being fuel, then hopefully you start to build a better relationship with food. This is what I mean by that. Let's go back to Elisa. Let's go back to my client. When we were working together, I said, okay, do me a favor. I want you to take a picture of your meals. For the next 3 days, every single meal, snack, breakfast, lunch, dinner, any beverage, I'm going to take a picture of it. And then at the end of the day, send me all the pictures. At the end of 3 days, I took every single day's worth of meals and I created a collage. So we had 3 different collages. And when we looked at those collages of food from day 1, day 2, and day 3, we started to take a look at the food. And I asked her basic questions. When you look at this meal, when you look at this picture collage, what do you see? And what we realized for all those collages, we were seeing a lot of brown, tan, white, a lot of packaged good foods, a lot of sugary drinks, and any color that we did see was colors that did not come from nature. It came from dyes, chemicals, additives, preservatives. And when we talked about that, it really opened her eyes to the fact that she was using food as a way just to kind of get by. She was using her food as a crutch, as a friend, as a reward, as a comfort system, as just anything else but the sole purpose of fueling and nourishing her body. And we started to talk about what do you want? Like, what do you want for yourself, for your future, for your life, for your body? And we started really going down deep with that. She wanted to have more energy. She wanted to be able to fit into her clothes a little bit better because she wanted to have more confidence. She wanted to be able to not be so stressed out and manage her stress and manage her sleep. And I said, okay, looking at these photos on the collages, does this seem like it's going to help to move you forward to reaching those goals? And I had to give her some tough love about it. She even tried to say, oh, it's not that bad. I said, you need to look at this because what we're looking at is not real food. We're looking at things that are not going to help you. That was a breakthrough for her because she realized that she actually was in control. For the first time in her life, she realized that she was allowing food to control her life instead of the other way around, instead of being empowered and being an advocate for her food. From there, we were able to start to create some new values and principles around food. And if you're like most people who have the standard diet, especially in the United States, most of our meals are packed with salt, sugar, refined carbohydrates, additives, preservatives, dyes, chemicals. None of these are real food. Our body is meant to thrive on foods like lean proteins, carbohydrates that are actually really good for you, because your body needs carbs. Your body needs carbs to actually do all of its stuff. Without carbs, your body will begin to break down. Without protein, it breaks down. Without healthy fats, it breaks down. So we need all of these things. And from there, you can start to rebuild your relationship with food. A lot of people ask, Allison, are carbs bad? Absolutely not. As I just mentioned, if food is fuel, carbs are going to be your number one fuel choice. But unfortunately, not all carbs are created equal. You have carbs that are going to be good for you, that are going to really nourish you, give you energy, help to replenish, just like things in your body. And then you have carbs that do absolutely nothing for you except taste really, really good, get you addicted to them, and burn through your body, and possibly turn into fat. Knowing the difference between those two is important. When it comes to carbs that are really going to be a great resource for you, you want to think about colors. You want to think about your fruits. You want to think about your vegetables. You want to think about sweet potatoes, looking at foods that are on the low glycemic index. These are just fruits and vegetables that don't spike your blood sugar super high, but keep it a little bit lower. And it just means that your body doesn't break down the carbs as quickly and the glucose as quickly. So that way you can stay more balanced, because your body wants to be in balance. Also looking at brown rice, sprouted whole grain breads, looking at quinoa, amaranth, oats. Those are really great sources of carbohydrates that you can eat that your body really uses. You can also look at the fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables have fiber, and fiber is one of the best things you can do when you're incorporating carbohydrates into your body, because the fiber helps to break down and slow down the digestion of the carbohydrates. So when you're looking at labels, you're looking at foods, look for things that are high in fiber, and look for carbohydrates that are really good for you. Think about colors. When it comes to protein, you want to think about really good sources of protein that are going to help you to rebuild your muscles, give you more energy, help you with production of the muscles growing and repairing and giving you energy and building a nice, healthy, strong body. And with your protein, you don't need to go super crazy. I know a lot of people think I have to, drink a bunch of protein shakes and everything. Luckily, we live in a society where protein is actually readily available. And the idea here, you don't just have to eat boiled chicken to get your protein, but think about other sources. A lot of people don't realize you can get protein from plants. Broccoli, peas, mushrooms, great sources of protein, quinoa. And you can always get it from edamame, tofu. You can get it from animals. So lean cuts of chicken, beef, fish. There's so many options around protein, and it's so important. And I typically tell people, when it comes to your protein, you want to have protein with every single meal, because you're constantly needing that energy and keeping your balance with your carbs, your protein, and your fats. Fats are the third macronutrient that are so important. Fats help not only just with brain health, it helps with your skin, but it also helps to regulate hormones and just keep you healthy, happy, and focused. You can get healthy fats from olive oil, avocado, nuts, seeds. All of these things are really, really important. And these are 3 macronutrients that your body needs. If we go back to food being fuel, these are the 3 things that you want to have in your diet every single day. There are a lot of low carb diets and different things, and we could go deep into that, but that requires a little bit more knowledge around your body and your chemistry to figure out what macro breakdown is really going to work for you. But in general, the idea is, when you look at your plate, you want to have a balance of protein, carbs, and healthy fats on every single plate. It's like eating the rainbow. That's what I always say. 2 principles that I live by are: eat as many colors as possible. Every time you look at your plate, there should be colorful items there. Not overcooked veggies that are now brown, but colors that are vibrant and beautiful and look good and tasty and delicious. And if you are using the Clean Eating Guide, I share tons of recipes that you can use that balance fats, carbs, and protein. Another way to look at it is keeping your meals PG. which means you have protein and grains, or proteins and vegetables with every single meal, because that ensures that you're getting those really strong building blocks. And then as you're preparing your foods, whether you're cooking your meats in avocado oil or coconut oil, or some type of oil, or you're using a vinaigrette dressing on your salads, or you're using peanut butter or nut butter on other things, or you're eating some dairy, you'll get the healthy fats from there as well. But if you want to make sure you have the bulk of your meals being protein, carbohydrates with some fiber in there, you're going to be in a really good shape when it comes to nutrition and feeling better, because it's all about creating balance. If you can focus on creating balance, every time you look at your meal, you have protein, carb, and fat, you're already on the right track. Because now food is no longer a punishment or reward, but the basis of your meals are going to be ones that support you. So my challenge to you is, over the next 1 to 3 days, start taking pictures of your food. And every time you look at that picture, or just look at your meal, ask yourself, is this meal fueling me, or is this meal pulling me back? Is this meal making me not get to where I'm looking for in my goals? You can determine that and you can decide that, but the awareness that you're creating will start to create the shift of how you view food. So remember, food is fuel. Create a balance on your plate with colors, with proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and just remember that the plates that you're eating should be visually pleasing, have lots of colors, have lots of nutrients, because that's the core of what your body needs. In the next session, we're going to talk about how do you navigate through some of the challenging parts of food when it comes to snacking, when it comes to sweets, when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to going out to restaurants. I've got you covered. So stay tuned and I'll see you in the next session.